You work hard, pay your bills, and still have nothing left. That's not your fault. You were trained to play a game that was never made for you. But let me ask you something. What if the problem isn't your effort, but the entire game itself? What if the system doesn't reward the hardworking, only the strategic? You were told, go to school, get a job, be loyal, save money, and retire at 65. Sounds fair, right? But if that formula worked, why do millions of people still retire broke after following it perfectly? Here's the uncomfortable truth. You were never taught money. You were taught obedience. The system wasn't built to make you rich. It was built to make you reliable. And reliable people don't build empires. They maintain them for others. You think you're playing the game of success, but you're actually playing the game of survival. And survival pays just enough to keep you from leaving. They told you to save. But save what? When the system keeps inflating prices faster than your income grows? They told you to buy a house, but didn't mention that banks make more off your mortgage than you'll ever save in your lifetime. You think you own that house? The bank owns your freedom. You think your job is your security. It's your leash. It's not your fault. You were handed the wrong manual. The rules they gave you were designed for a world that doesn't exist anymore. Back then, one income could feed a family. Now 2 incomes can barely feed one. Back then, saving money meant safety. Now, saving money means losing value every year to inflation. So tell me, are you really broke? Or are you just playing a game that punishes the players and rewards the owners? See, wealth isn't about how hard you work. It's about where you work from, the position you play on the board. The rich don't work harder. They play smarter. They own the systems the rest of the world depends on. You've been taught to think like a worker. They think like a banker. You count hours. They count interest. You save money. They circulate it. Here's the first mindset shift. Stop seeing yourself as a player and start thinking like the person who writes the rules. Because until you do, every paycheck will feel like permission, not progress. The moment you understand this, life stops feeling unfair. It starts making sense. You'll begin to see patterns, how companies keep you addicted, how credit keeps you chained, how taxes reward investors and punish employees. You'll stop blaming yourself for not winning a game that was never designed for you to win. And instead of saying, I can't afford that, you'll start asking, how do the people who can afford these things think? That's the real question. Because money doesn't flow to effort, it flows to understanding. Think about it. The same world where someone earns $2,000 a month is the same world where someone earns $200,000 in a week. They're both human. They're both working. But one is playing checkers while the other is playing chess. Most people are trained to think in terms of survival. Get paid, spend, repeat. The wealthy think in terms of systems. Build, delegate, multiply. One runs on time, the other runs on leverage. You can't win a chess game by thinking like a pawn. Pawns follow the rules. Kings bend them. Queens move anywhere they want. Here's the second truth. Wealth isn't about saving. It's about positioning. Every dollar you hold is losing value, while every dollar invested is gaining influence. Inflation isn't just a number. It's a quiet tax on the poor and the unprepared. But no one tells you that because the system needs consumers, not creators. It needs you buying, not building. It needs you comfortable enough to stay quiet, but scared enough to keep running. They tell you to be disciplined, but disciplined in what? In staying loyal to a paycheck that never grows. In saving for a retirement that might not even come. Discipline is only powerful when applied to the right direction. There's no glory in grinding for nothing. And here's where emotion fights logic. You want security. It's human. But security isn't safety. It's stagnation disguised as peace. Real safety comes from control, not comfort. Control of time, control of income, control of choice. Every rich person you admire stopped trading hours for dollars. They started trading ideas for value. They shifted from being part of a system to building their own. But that shift begins inside your head. Because as long as your mindset stays in survival, your income stays there too. Let me give it to you straight. The poor work for money, the middle class work for stability, and the rich make money work for them. It's not just a quote. It's a framework. When you start thinking like an owner, every decision changes. You stop asking, how much does this cost? And start asking, what will this return? That's how they think. Every dollar becomes a soldier sent out to bring back more. Every minute becomes a tool, not a trap. And while you're busy clocking in, they're busy cashing in because they're playing a longer game. You don't need millions to start. You need awareness, then alignment, then action. Because the system may not have been built for you, but it can still be beaten by you. You don't escape it by running harder. You escape it by changing how you move. The game of wealth isn't fair, but it is learnable. The rules aren't secret. They're just not taught in school. And the first rule is this: money is a slave that obeys whoever understands it best. The problem is, most people have become slaves to the very thing that was meant to serve them. They chase it, fear it, worship it, but never learn to command it. You don't have to be born rich to be financially powerful. You just have to learn how to stop thinking like a worker and start acting like a strategist. Because when you understand leverage, everything shifts. A business owner leverages people, an investor leverages money. The wealthy leverage both. They don't wait for opportunity, they engineer it. The middle class wait for payday. The rich create it. The poor spend on feelings. The rich spend on assets. The poor buy comfort. The rich buy control. It sounds harsh, but it's the truth no one wants to say out loud. The reason you're stuck isn't that you don't work hard enough. It's that you've been working for someone else's plan. While you trade your time for cash, they're trading your time for profit. You're the engine. They're the driver. But once you learn the mechanics of wealth, you can build your own vehicle. So here's the mindset shift that changes everything. Money is not a destination. It's a tool. It's a language. And right now, you're fluent in the vocabulary of survival, but it's time to learn the dialect of power. When you learn that dialect, you start to see patterns others miss. You stop chasing paychecks and start building pipelines. You stop saying I can't and start asking, how can I? Because the game rewards thinkers, not workers. It rewards patience, not panic. It rewards strategy, not speed. But remember this, awareness without action changes nothing. The wealthy don't just understand, they execute. They build, they invest, they own. They play the same game you play, but with a different rule book. That's why your next move matters more than your past mistakes. Don't drown in regret for what you didn't know. Use it as fuel to build what you never had. Every decision from now on must serve your freedom, not your fear. If it doesn't move you closer to control, it's just another chain in disguise. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop surviving and start strategizing? Are you ready to stop renting your time and start owning your outcome? Because the truth is, you were never broke. You were just uninformed. And information, when acted on, becomes transformation. You can spend the next 10 years running in the same circle, or you can spend the next 10 months building the foundation that changes your bloodline forever. The choice is always yours. The system may not care about you, but that's fine. It's not required to. What matters is whether you care enough to outgrow it. So, if you're done talking about change and ready to live it, subscribe to this channel and stay right here because this is where wealth is built.